Fasten your seatbelts. We're about to take a wild ride and explore some of the most unusual concept cars of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Chevrolet turned heads by borrowing high-tech lessons from IndyCar racing and injecting them into this radical Corvette concept. The Corvette Indy showcased a mid-mounted engine layout, something fans clamored for but never saw in production until decades later. Its rumored twin-turbo V8 allegedly kicked out over 600 horsepower, and the concept teased advanced features like all-wheel drive, four-wheel steering, and active suspension. It was basically a rolling science lab designed to keep the Corvette name at the bleeding edge of performance. Yet building such a supercar for the road wasn't cheap. GM ultimately decided not to funnel the resources into a production version, fearing sky-high costs. Critics argue this move robbed the Corvette of an earlier transformation that might have squared it up against European exotics long before the modern C8. Even so, many of the Corvette Indy's ideas trickled down into future Corvettes, making the concept an important chapter in the car's evolution. It remains a powerful reminder that Chevy once dreamed of turning its famous sports car into an American Ferrari beater, if only the corporate bean counters had let them. You'd typically associate Briggs & Stratton with lawnmower engines, not futuristic prototypes. That's what made the 1980 Briggs & Stratton hybrid so bizarre and, in a strange way, prophetic. This four-passenger concept combined an electric motor with a small gas engine, aiming to maximize fuel efficiency during an era of fluctuating oil prices. Its lightweight construction relied on plastic and aluminum panels, offering an economical way to test early hybrid technology. Some folks sneered at its tiny size, claiming it was more of a novelty than a viable vehicle. Others saw it as a pioneering attempt at gas-electric synergy, years before hybrids became mainstream. Controversy swirled around whether an engine maker best known for lawn equipment could really break into the automotive realm. Though it never gained widespread traction, this quirky concept foreshadowed the future of automotive propulsion. In all seriousness, the thought of your mower company creating a commuter car might spark a smile, but they were onto something ahead of their time. When Ford used the name Probe, it was all about aerodynamic experimentation, not unintended puns. The 1981 Ford Probe 3 continued the brand's quest to minimize drag and maximize fuel efficiency. It had flush glass, a sharply sloped nose, and a roofline that tapered elegantly toward the trunk. Wind tunnel testing was still evolving in the early 80s, so Ford's efforts to push the drag coefficient down were cutting edge. Under the hood, the concept featured a thrifty four-cylinder engine aimed at improving mileage. Critics found it too futuristic, suspecting everyday drivers wanted more style than science. Others applauded Ford's forward thinking, noting that such aerodynamic principles would define future family cars. Even the interior was minimalistic, with digital gauges and an ergonomic layout that hinted at practicality. The Probe 3 never went into direct production, but it helped shape Ford's design language in the decades that followed. That being said, it might not have been the muscle car your neighbor dreamt of, but it showed a glimpse of how automakers were grappling with fuel economy and the changing priorities of the 80s consumer. Believe it or not, Chevy once toyed with the idea of rotary engines, leading to the 1972 XP897 GT rotary concept. With a sleek profile and tidy dimensions, it looked like a Corvette sibling shrunk for the modern age. Under the hood was a Wankel rotary engine, courtesy of GM's brief fascination with that technology. The concept promised lower weight and high rev excitement, aiming to dethrone Mazda as the rotary master. Unfortunately, a confluence of factors sank GM's rotary dreams. Emissions regulations, cost issues, and the looming oil crisis made a thirsty rotary less appealing. There were also concerns about reliability and warranty nightmares. The XP897 GT rotary disappeared, relegated to the what-if files of Chevy history. Still, it showcased GM's willingness to experiment, and it stands as a fascinating snippet of an alternate path where the Bowtie brand embraced spinning rotors over traditional pistons. Jokes aside, it remains one of the more daring leaps in Chevrolet's storied past. Collaborations between American car makers and Italian design houses have produced some fascinating results, and the 1984 Ford Maya is a prime example. Teaming up with Giorgetto Giugiaro's Italdesign, Ford looked to create a mid-engine sports car that combined American muscle with European flair. The Maya featured a rumored twin-turbo V6, aerodynamic pop-up headlights, and pronounced side scoops that gave it a racing vibe. Inside, the driver-focused cockpit included a race-like gearshift and a sleek dashboard layout. Critics were split. Some felt it evoked a bit of the legendary GT40 spirit, while others thought it lacked the raw drama of Italian exotics. Ford's focus soon shifted, and the Maya concept never evolved into a production halo car. Whispered rumors suggest it provided insights for future Ford performance models, possibly even influencing design decisions in secret corners of the company's labs. While it didn't become a household name, the Ford Maya remains a piece of automotive folklore, a testament to the allure of pairing Detroit engineering with Italian artistry. Chevrolet stunned everyone with the 1986 Corvette Indy, which looked more like a Le Mans prototype than a Corvette. Radical styling cues included a wraparound windshield, scissor doors, and a mid-engine layout, features that wouldn't reach a production Corvette until many decades later. Beneath its aerodynamic skin, engineers envisioned a twin-turbo V8, delivering mind-boggling horsepower, plus high-tech innovations such as four-wheel steering and active suspension. The prospect sounded amazing on paper but proved far too costly for mid-80s mass production. That didn't stop fans from drooling over the potential performance figures, which promised a rocket from 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds, a rarity at the time. The Indy's biggest controversy was whether the Corvette could remain America's sports car if it went mid-engine and hyper-advanced, potentially alienating traditional buyers. In the end, it stayed a concept, but its influence can be felt in modern Corvette design. If you told someone in 1986 that a mid-engine Corvette would eventually come out, they might have replied, "In your dreams." Turns out, Chevy just took its sweet time. As fuel prices climbed and insurance premiums hammered performance cars, Ford realized the Mustang needed a makeover, or it might vanish. Enter the 1973 Mustang II Ghia concept, an elegant take on the classic pony car. Designed by the Italian studio Ghia, it boasted a smaller footprint, refined lines, and emphasis on comfort. Some saw it as a betrayal of the Mustang's muscle heritage, while others recognized it as a survival strategy in a changing market. The concept's interior leaned toward luxury, featuring plush seats and a dash that favored style over simplicity. Critics said it lacked the Mustang's raw power, but supporters noted that this was the reality of the times. Though the production Mustang II that followed earned mixed reviews, the Ghia concept proved that Ford was prepared to evolve its legendary nameplate to face new challenges. Love it or hate it, it helped ensure the Mustang didn't vanish in an era that was unkind to gas-hungry performance machines. A stalwart name faced reinvention in the late 70s, the Ford Thunderbird. Once a sleek two-seater, it had morphed into a bigger personal luxury coupe. The 1977 Thunderbird concept aimed to recapture some lost excitement, unveiling a smoother body, a slightly smaller footprint, and talk of a possible turbocharged engine option. While it kept that classic long hood, the rest of the shape was more aerodynamic than earlier models, hinting Ford wanted to usher the T-Bird into a modern era. Reactions were mixed. Loyalists loved their big plush Thunderbirds, while younger audiences wondered if this concept went far enough. Ultimately, the next production Thunderbird was more conservative, retaining many old-school design traits. Still, the 1977 concept signaled that Ford understood the brand needed evolution. Today, it's a marker of that uncertain phase when American automakers grappled with shifting demands, trying to figure out how to make large coupes relevant again in a rapidly changing market. Minivans rarely spark excitement, but the 1986 Pontiac Trans Sport concept tried to change that narrative. With its sweeping windshield, glass roof, and gull-wing rear doors, it appeared more like a spacecraft than a family hauler. Inside, engineers stuffed it with then cutting-edge electronics, including a head-up display and customizable seating arrangements. Pontiac was hoping to show that utility vehicles didn't have to be boring, though cynics dismissed it as too futuristic for suburbia. By the time the production Trans Sport arrived, much of the bold styling had been watered down, leaving a somewhat ordinary minivan. Yet the concept car remains a testament to GM's willingness to explore wild ideas, even in the realm of people movers. Controversially, some within GM worried the gullwing doors were too expensive and prone to mechanical issues. Still, the original transport concept stands out as one of the rare times a minivan actually looked, dare we say, cool. Just imagine if you pulled up to soccer practice in a gullwing minivan. You'd definitely score some style points. While Chrysler and Lamborghini might seem like an odd couple, the late 80s found the Italian supercar maker under Chrysler's corporate umbrella. The 1987 Portofino showcased what could happen if you meshed Detroit's design ethos with Italian exotic flair. Originally derived from a Chrysler concept called the Navajo, it was reborn as a four-door Lamborghini showpiece. Each door opened in scissor fashion, reminiscent of the legendary Countach. Rumors suggested a V12 was nestled beneath the sleek body, but official specs were never fully clarified. Critics wondered if this collaboration was merely a marketing ploy, or if Chrysler genuinely aimed to push a Lamborghini sedan to market. Nothing concrete materialized, making the Portofino a fascinating footnote that teased a sports sedan future. Seeing that many scissor doors on one car makes you wonder how many valets would be left scratching their heads. Lincoln, known for plush cruisers, decided to shake things up in 1987 with the Lincoln Vignale. Built by Ghia, the concept was a sleek front-wheel drive sedan that boasted European-style aerodynamics, low-slung headlights, and wraparound taillights. The interior showcased digital dashboards and cushy leather seats, merging futuristic tech with good old American comfort. Some believed it signaled Lincoln's attempt to challenge European luxury cars by offering something more contemporary than the brand's traditional boxy designs. Others felt the brand risked alienating loyal buyers who associated Lincoln with stately, squared-off sedans. The Vignale ultimately stayed in concept form, serving as a glimmer of what might have been had Lincoln committed to that Euro-inspired route. It remains a curious chapter in Lincoln's history, illustrating a brand briefly toying with reinvention before settling back into more familiar territory. Mention the Vignale to a hardcore Lincoln fan, and you'll get either a wistful smile or a confused stare. There's rarely a middle ground with this one. When people hear Oldsmobile, they might not picture land speed records. Yet, the 1987 Oldsmobile Aerotech was built for exactly that. Powered by a highly tuned version of the Quad 4 engine, it broke multiple closed-course speed records, sometimes topping 250 mph. Its body was a pointed projectile, crafted with carbon fiber and Kevlar to reduce weight and improve strength, uncommon materials in the mid-80s. The cockpit had a fighter jet feel, with few frills beyond what the driver needed for high-speed runs. Critics were thrilled that Oldsmobile, a brand often seen as conservative, was pushing technological boundaries. Others questioned why resources were poured into a car that would never see a showroom. Still, the Aerotech's aerodynamic principles would influence more practical vehicles later on. Jokes aside, you wouldn't have guessed your grandfather's Olds might spawn a rocket-like concept, but the Aerotech stands as a reminder that even the most traditional brands can break the mold when they feel inspired. Cadillac's obsession with luxury took a futuristic twist in 1988 with the Cadillac Voyage. Slender lines replaced the brand's customary bulk, and hidden headlights plus a smooth front fascia hinted at aerodynamic priorities. Rumors swirled about advanced features like all-wheel drive and computer-controlled suspension that would coddle passengers with unparalleled comfort. The interior boasted digital instrument clusters and generous seating, blending cutting-edge tech with that plush Cadillac vibe. Some saw the Voyage as the next leap in luxury sedans, while others insisted Cadillac's core buyers preferred tradition. Though it never made production, elements like refined aerodynamic touches and updated electronics trickled down into subsequent models. Controversy arose over whether Cadillac could truly ditch the classic angles that had come to define it. Seriously, you can imagine an alternate timeline where the Voyage hit showrooms, possibly changing perceptions of what American luxury could be. In 1989, Dodge unveiled a concept that ditched high-tech wizardry for raw power, the Dodge Viper. A massive V10 engine, co-developed with Lamborghini, sat under a long hood, while the interior stuck to bare essentials like an analog speedometer and a manual transmission. The original concept had no roof, no side windows, and only token safety features. Pure automotive anarchy. Critics argued it was too brutal and lacked civility, but that was precisely its appeal. Enthusiasts went wild for the Viper's serpentine curves and unapologetic performance. By 1992, a near-identical version appeared in showrooms, rewriting the rulebook for American sports cars. The controversy only fueled its legend, with many praising Dodge for capturing the spirit of classic muscle while delivering supercar-level performance. All in all, the Viper demonstrated that sometimes less is more, unless you're talking about horsepower, in which case more is definitely more. AMC's flair for the unconventional appeared again in 1979 with the AM van, a boxy yet futuristic approach to multi-purpose hauling. Looking like it had arrived from a sci-fi set, the AM van prioritized interior space, versatile seating, and even proposed a sliding door for easy entry, a feature that would later become standard on minivans. Keep in mind, the very concept of a family-friendly van was still evolving when AMC dreamed up this design. Unfortunately, AMC never had the funds to push the AM van into production. Critics also questioned if buyers were ready for such a futuristic shape. A few years later, Chrysler's minivans burst onto the market and changed family transport forever, leaving the AM van as a what could have been. Some AMC fans argue the brand might have carved out a winning niche had it beaten Chrysler to the punch. Jokes aside, it's a rare glimpse at AMC's forward thinking, overshadowed by the brand's eventual demise. Amid the transition to the Fox body platform, Ford pondered a rally-inspired Mustang for 1979 known as the RSX concept. Showcasing boxy fender flares, a hatchback design, and rumored turbocharged four-cylinder engines, it challenged the notion that all Mustangs had to revolve around big V8s. Ford teased that a lightweight, turbocharged pony car could compete with rising imports, meeting new efficiency standards without sacrificing excitement. Traditionalists scoffed, insisting that a four-cylinder Mustang was heresy. Meanwhile, younger enthusiasts liked the idea of nimble handling and better fuel economy. Ford eventually released toned-down turbo Mustangs, but the RSX's radical styling never made it into production. Some wonder if adopting a more progressive design might have boosted the Mustang's popularity in the 80s import wars. Either way, the RSX stands as a rebellious concept that dared to challenge decades of muscle car tradition. Buick is often seen as a sedate brand, but the 1982 Quester concept proved it could dream big about technology. From the outside, it looked fairly streamlined, but nothing too wild. Inside, though, was a different story. Voice-activated controls, radar-based cruise control, and a color display for diagnostics. Think of it like a rolling computer lab back when personal computers were barely in American households. Critics doubted that Buick's older customers would embrace such radical innovations. And indeed, manufacturing the Quester's features was expensive and unproven. As a result, the concept never hit showrooms, though some of its tech trickled into GM's vehicles over the ensuing decades. The Quester remains a fascinating time capsule showing that Buick once aimed to be a futuristic trendsetter. Jokes aside, imagine telling your grandparents in 1982 they could talk to their car and have it obey commands. A bold vision indeed. The late 1980s saw pickup trucks evolving from basic workhorses into lifestyle vehicles. The Ford Splash concept took that idea to extremes with vibrant paint, pronounced body lines, and an almost sport car approach to a compact truck. It emphasized style and comfort, featuring bucket seats, a high-end sound system, and a shortened bed that wasn't about lugging drywall. It was about looking good. Some truck purists rolled their eyes, calling the Splash a frivolous gimmick. But Ford recognized a growing market of youthful buyers who wanted a truck for cruising, not just hauling. Though the concept's showy features were toned down for production, the eventual Ranger Splash carried enough pizzazz to stand out. The 1989 Splash concept signaled that trucks could be as much about personal expression as utility, an idea that took root and blossomed in the 1990s, paving the way for the sporty pickup niche. Chrysler was fighting to refresh its image in the late 70s, so it unveiled a sleeker, more upscale LeBaron concept. Aerodynamics, by 1977 standards, shaped its hood and trunk, moving away from the slab-like forms of earlier sedans. Inside, designers toyed with digital readouts, which seemed downright futuristic for the era. The concept aimed to show that Chrysler could remain luxurious while embracing modern forms. Bean counters, however, worried about the cost of new tech, and management feared older buyers might not warm to digital dashboards. So the eventual production LeBaron was more conservative. Jokes aside, the 1977 concept remains a prime example of how auto companies test progressive designs only to pull back when it's time to face the market. Still, glimpses of the concept's sleeker style informed Chrysler's later cars, proving that even if the brand couldn't go full futuristic, it had at least one eye on tomorrow. Before the Sunfire name became associated with a modest coupe, Pontiac's 1990 Sunfire concept wowed audiences with curvaceous bodywork, an aerodynamic nose, and a rumored solar-paneled roof. The interior was even wilder. Joystick controls and digital readouts that felt more like a video game arcade than a driver's cockpit. Pontiac positioned it as a forward-thinking sports car that balanced efficiency and flair. Some critics brushed it off as a show floor gimmick. Others saw potential. Why not harness the sun for auxiliary power, or offer cutting-edge control systems for younger drivers? In the end, GM reined in the wild ideas, delivering a production Sunfire that was far less futuristic. The concept remains a sign of Pontiac's willingness to break from tradition, even if it never fully came to pass. Jokes aside, it makes you wonder how different the brand's fortunes might have been had it rolled the dice on such radical tech. By the early 90s, Oldsmobile was searching for a new identity, and the Expression concept presented a family-friendly station wagon that looked anything but bland. Short overhangs and a spacious cabin made it practical, while swoopy lines and clever interior packaging signaled that Olds wasn't content to be staid. It even hinted at advanced safety features like integrated child seats and improved crumple zones. Despite positive feedback, GM politics and brand confusion kept the Expression from reaching showrooms. Was Oldsmobile supposed to be sporty, luxury-oriented, or family-focused? The brand never found clarity, and the Expression disappeared into concept car limbo. Still, it stands out as a potential game-changer, suggesting that a stylish, modern wagon could redefine Oldsmobile's role in the market. Alas, Olds would eventually fade away, leaving us to wonder if the Expression might have steered its fate differently. If any car screams concept excess, it's the 1995 Ford GT90. With its striking geometric lines, part of Ford's New Edge design philosophy, and a brutal quad-turbocharged V12 rumored to produce over 700 horsepower, it captured imaginations worldwide. A claimed top speed of 230 mph positioned it among the most fearsome concept cars of its day. Some said it was a modern follow-up to Ford's legendary GT40. Others saw it as an over-the-top engineering exercise. Regulatory hurdles and sky-high production costs meant the GT90 never advanced beyond show car status. Yet it proved Ford could still dream of dominating the supercar world. Bits and pieces of its styling influenced later Fords, and the spirit of a Ford-built exotic eventually manifested in the 2005 Ford GT. Jokes aside, the GT90 remains an unforgettable glimpse into what Ford might achieve when the accountants step aside and the gearheads run wild. As SUVs gained traction, Chevrolet decided to envision a Blazer for the next generation, unveiling the 1989 XT1 concept. It combined rugged 4x4 capability with sleek lines and a refined interior, including leather seats and digital gauges. Some speculated it might pack a turbocharged engine, giving it extra punch off the line. Chevy aimed to show that you didn't have to choose between comfort and off-road prowess. Skeptics wondered if the XT1's fancy touches, like an advanced suspension system, would survive actual trail abuse. Others believed it set the stage for the future of SUVs as lifestyle vehicles. The production Blazer remained more traditional, and the XT1 never saw the light of day in showrooms. Still, it foreshadowed the market's eventual pivot toward well-appointed SUVs that could handle a muddy back road one minute and a night on the town the next. Often overshadowed by Pontiac's Firebird concepts, the 1987 Pursuit showcased a sleek, two-door coupe approach that combined practical elements with performance styling. Its stance was low, the nose aggressive, and the roofline arched for better aerodynamics. Pontiac hinted at advanced engine technology, possibly a Turbo 4 or a new V6, that would deliver respectable fuel efficiency while still stirring up excitement. The idea was to create a sporty daily driver without the typical muscle car thirst for gas. Critics found it appealing, but internal GM priorities meant the pursuit never got the green light for production. Jokes aside, the brand's motto was, "We build excitement," and the pursuit could have fit that bill for a segment of buyers who wanted sporty, but not outrageous. In the end, it faded into the concept archives, a reminder that sometimes practical performance remains a tough sell against established nameplates. We wrap up with the 1988 Banshee, a legendary Pontiac concept that strongly hinted at future Firebird styling. With its dramatic wedge shape, wraparound windshield, and low-slung stance, the Banshee looked like it stepped off a sci-fi movie set. Rumor had it, Pontiac dreamed of dropping a high-output V8 under that sinuous hood, making it a worthy competitor to any muscle or sports car around. Fans loved its sharp angles and futuristic flair, seeing it as the next evolution of the Firebird. Critics, though, said some elements were too radical for production, particularly the extreme windshield rake and integrated rear spoiler. While certain Banshee cues later appeared on production Pontiacs, the concept itself never hit dealerships. Even so, the name remains iconic among Pontiac enthusiasts who saw in it the brand's bold vision of excitement and style. Jokes aside, it still captures the imagination, reminding us of a time when GM's excitement division wasn't afraid to aim for the automotive stratosphere. Hope you enjoyed this journey through the quirkiest, boldest, and most visionary concept cars ever to roll out from the 1970s through the 1990s. These automotive oddities spark both nostalgia and amazement, reminding us that bold ideas sometimes lead to breakthroughs, and sometimes just lead to spectacular show cars. Make sure to subscribe for more stories on wild prototypes, hidden gems, and the occasional controversy in the car world. Thanks for riding along and keep dreaming of the roads less traveled.